Hi, I'm Raylyn Worcester, and this is Spreading the Word. That's word with capital W, as in the written word, the Bible, and the word made flesh, Jesus Christ. I'm about to read to you part 18 of Without Faith. Things are getting good. All of the resistors have been organized and assigned to different sections of the United States closest to where they live and around one of each of the camps, the capital, and the processing center. Not only that, but they all have ready access to vehicles and weapons. It's getting good now. Nothing is going to be able to stop the resistors or throw a wrench into their works. Or is it? You're going to have to stay tuned to find out. Part 18 of Without Faith. Minnesota. Chester Devlin shook his head slowly. He didn't get it. Why had Uncle Sam chosen some girl in northeastern Minnesota as the section coordinator instead of him, when he lived 15 minutes away from the camp? Chester knew that Uncle Sam was the mastermind behind the plan. He had to be a smart guy. He must have his reasons, but Chester still didn't get it. Does he think I don't have what it takes? He wondered. I will show him I do have what it takes, he decided. I will drive over to the camp and do a little reconnaissance. If I can give them some information they will need but don't have, he will see he made a mistake. It was still morning, and Chester worked the swing shift at Hormel Foods in Eden Prairie. He would have plenty of time to drive over, snoop around a bit, and be back for work and on time. It was decided he would go. Although it was the next nearest town, Chester had never been to Savage. He had everything he needed right in Eden Prairie, and not being a history buff, had no real reason to go there. Now he got in his car and headed to Minnesota 5 East, which he took until he reached US 169 South. He switched highways and drove another 5 miles to Minnesota 13 Savage, which turned into Sioux Trail and led directly to the Camp Savage historical marker. The monument was a rectangular placard on a pole that recounted the history of the camp beneath the flying colors of the American flag. Chester got out of his car to read it. It was interesting, but said nothing about where the actual camp was located. He got back in his car and spent the next hour driving up and down streets, encompassing the entire town. Frustrated, he pulled over at the Chamber of Commerce building on McCall Drive and went inside. A friendly librarian-looking woman rose from a desk as he entered and asked if she could help him. "What do you know about Camp Savage?" he asked. It was the site of a U.S. Military Intelligence Service language school that operated during World War II. It was used to teach military personnel Japanese for the purpose of interrogating prisoners of war. Chester sighed. "Yeah, I read all that on the marker. Where is it now?" "Well, it outgrew the property here in 1944 and was moved to Camp Snelling in St. Paul." Chester got excited. "It's in St. Paul?" "I'm afraid not. All there is in St. Paul is a marker like ours and a historical museum." Confused now, Chester asked, "Then where is it now?" "Nowhere," the librarian said. "It no longer exists." Chester sat in his car reeling from the librarian's news. He'd heard the militia leader on the clip specifically say that the fence sitters were being taken to Camp Savage in Savage, Minnesota. But there wasn't a camp here. So where were all the people taken? Another thought suddenly took up residence in Chester's mind. There were over 1,000 patriots preparing to come here, and all they would find is a marker and a flag. He hurried back home. He needed to draft an urgent message to the underground to share what he had learned. Further east, Gloria and Corporal Johansson, who asked to be called Rob, were on their way to Abilene, Texas. After tearful hugs goodbye, Dylan was left behind, and Gloria got in the staff car with her new assistant. Gloria glanced at the young man in the passenger seat as she merged onto I-35 South. With his short blonde hair and new dress clothes, he reminded Gloria of Dylan during the Fort Benjamin Harrison days. She actually slipped and called her new assistant Dylan a couple of times, for which she apologized profusely, and he graciously dismissed. Rob. She silently rehearsed. His name is Rob. They would use this 18-hour trip to get to know each other. Gloria would have to be careful how much she shared and how she portrayed herself. Rob was militia, loyal to his government. He was not a patriot nor a believer. She couldn't discuss her secret mission with him or even let on that she had one. She would have to be extremely careful from here on out. She let out a wistful sigh. She was going to miss Dylan, miss plotting and praying with him. How was she ever going to manage with Rob as her assistant? She smiled at the young man, who smiled back, but seemed hesitant to speak to her. It was going to be a long trip. Washington, D.C. The new video clip and the urgent message both popped onto Christian's computer screen almost simultaneously. He had been eagerly waiting for the clip, but the message was in red, so it demanded to be read first. Christian was shaking when he'd finished reading the message. He read it through a second time. There was no mistake. There was no Camp Savage in Savage, Minnesota. Where had all the fence sitters been taken? And what was he going to do about all the people set to march upon Camp Savage in just under 6 weeks' time? Christian went into the coffee shop and sat at the counter. He needed to think. It was 2 p.m., the slowest time of the day at the coffee shop, and indeed, his wife was the only one in the building. She looked up from the table she'd been wiping as her husband emerged from the storage room. Well, look who arose from the dungeon. To what do I owe the honor? She quipped, before noticing how pale Christian suddenly looked. She fixed him an iced coffee. He looked like he needed something refreshing as well as something caffeinated. She pulled up a stool next to Christian and put her arm around him. Okay, spill. What's going on? Bridget asked. Christian told her about the message he'd just read. I don't know what to do about it, he confided. If I make it public, people will panic. They will want to know where all the people we were told were going to Savage, Minnesota are, and I don't have an answer for them. Not only that, but we've got less than 6 weeks to find them and get a force mobilized to breach that facility, along with the others on the 4th of July. And what about all the people already prepared to go to Savage? It's also overwhelming. Bridget realized that her husband was dangerously nearing a nervous breakdown. He'd spent all day every day, with the exception of a few honeymoon days at the new apartment, on that computer in the secret room. It had consumed his days. He needed a break, but he would never take one now, not with a crisis looming. She walked over and locked the coffee shop door. "Let's pray," she suggested. "Father," Bridget led, while holding Christian's hand, "thank you for alerting us that we were planning to raid the wrong place. You know where the fence sitters are. Lead us to them by your Holy Spirit. Let us find them in time to mobilize a force to rescue them. Nothing is impossible for you. Show us what to do next. In Jesus' name, amen." Christian took a deep breath. He felt better, exhausted in mind and body, but better. "This is what we are going to do," Bridget said, getting Christian's attention. "You are going to run the coffee shop for the next 3 days while I monitor the website. I can use your permissions to do anything that needs to be done." Christian opened his mouth to say something, but Bridget shut him down. "I know what to do. Trust me. You need a break or you won't be any good to anyone. I think we need to make the message public. Maybe someone out there has seen or heard something and knows where this camp may be. Our resistors are our most valuable asset. Let's use them. Unite them in a mission to find the missing camp." Christian nodded. It sounded like a good idea. He was so grateful for this woman God had given him to help him through times like this. Christian suddenly remembered the new video clip he had yet to view. He told Bridget about it. She put the closed sign on the door and said they would go watch it together. It would be his last official act before his forced working vacation. They entered the secret room, sat before the computer, and pulled up the clip. Christian pushed the play button and watched as they once again saw a train of cattle cars outside the tall razor-wired fence and heard the announcement, "This is the Oklahoma FEMA processing plant. This is not a detention center. All persons will be processed and transferred to other facilities." In the background. Then there was a close-up picture of the map of the grounds. All of the buildings were labeled, and some had red X's on them, indicating that they were off limits to the detainees. This was followed by actual footage shot as someone walked around the grounds. Emphasis had been given to the latrine pits, with close-ups on the fence surrounding it, to which an audio clip had been added. A female voice said, "Sorry about the latrines, but it's the only place on the compound that is not under surveillance." Next, there was the shot of the train again, and a 12-foot solid metal wall. There was a gate with an arm across it, like a toll booth, and a military guard shack to its left. As the train stopped, the arm lifted, and armed militia walked through, approaching the train and stationing themselves near the door of each cattle car. Attached to this was another audio clip. In this one, a man was speaking. Fort Ben, as the locals call it, is an Indiana state park occupying 1,700 acres of land, most of which had been renovated to include a museum and other tourist attractions, and boasts thousands of visitors a day. The part the train came to, the part we are using, was the old World War II prisoner of war camp. This part of Fort Benjamin Harrison is not only inaccessible to the public, but it is also hidden, and very few people were even aware of its existence, making the public park the perfect front for the true purpose of the property. Here, non-believers that had been arrested will be trained to become militia or to become staff at detainment camps and processing centers around the country. The next shots were of the grounds as someone walked around it. The final scene on the video clip was a classroom setting. On each table before each trainee was a machine gun. The instructor went over the parts of the gun, how to hold it, how to load it. Then he said, "Militia guns are always loaded with blanks. Our goal is to frighten, to control, not to kill. Don't get me wrong, we kill terrorists, just not here and not with guns. They have a grislier fate awaiting them." A trainee raised his hand. The instructor acknowledged him and he stood. "So none of the guns really shoot anyone, even at the processing center?" he asked. "That's right. Working weapons are in the hands of the generals only. Prevents accidents and ensures the terrorists die in the most torturous means possible. Of course, no one knows that but you. You are to be threatening and intimidating. They must believe you are willing and ready to shoot them." The video clip ended. Bridget and Christian stared at the empty screen for a full minute before either spoke. "This is gold!" Christian exclaimed. "We now know the layout of the processing center and the most vulnerable point for entry. And we know the public part of Fort Benjamin Harrison isn't where we need to go, but to the entrance by the train tracks, the one with one simple guard shack and an electronic arm, which is manned by guards with blanks in their guns, unless they're generals," Bridget jumped in. "Which they wouldn't be," Christian assured her. Bridget and Christian moved the video clip to the evidence page and moved the urgent message to the plan page. Then they shut off the lights in the secret room in the coffee shop, locked the door, and went home. Tomorrow, Christian would open the coffee shop and Bridget would man the computer in the secret room. But tonight, they both would get some much-needed rest. Minnesota. Marcy's phone rang insistently, but she couldn't just leave Sylvie in the tub to get it from the other room and answer it. Whoever it was would just have to wait. It quit ringing as she rinsed the shampoo from her daughter's hair, taking care not to get it in her eyes. She had just lifted Sylvie from the tub and wrapped a towel around her as it began to ring again. All right, I'm coming," she hollered, as if the phone could hear her and would patiently wait until she came to answer it. She held her dripping daughter with one arm and picked up the phone with the other and put it to her ear. "Hello?" "Marcy, it's Shirley." "Oh, hi, Shirley. I was just—" Marcy began when Shirley interrupted. "Marcy, I've got to be quick. This is important. I saw that you are the coordinator for Section 7, Camp Savage. I can't tell you how I know, but the camp is located at Island Lake, north of Duluth. Get word to Uncle Sam. Don't mention my name. Gotta go." Then a dial tone. Marcy set the phone on the end table as she sat Sylvie on the floor. She dried her daughter off, then told her to go put on her little mermaid jammies. What was Shirley talking about? Wasn't the camp in Savage, over by Eden Prairie? She hadn't been on the site for a couple of days, which was too long when you are a section coordinator, she knew, but Sylvie had been sick and she'd had her hands full with her. Her fever had just come down this morning, and she had planned to catch up on all the reading tonight after she put her daughter to bed. Marcy put on a video for Sylvie and settled her in front of it, then pulled up the secret pages on her computer. There was a new video clip on the evidence page and a new urgent message on the plan. She read it first. Her eyes grew wide and her mouth formed a silent "oh" as she read. Now she understood. They were planning to mobilize in less than 2 months, and no one knew where the missing camp was. They had to be in panic mode, but Shirley knew, somehow, and now Marcy did too. Uncle Sam had given his personal phone number to all the section coordinators. She would call him right away. "Mommy, come watch Toy Story with me. I'm lonesome," Sylvie called from Marcy's room. "Coming, baby," she hollered back. She would call Uncle Sam once Sylvie drifted off to sleep. She climbed into the bed and wrapped her arm around her precious little girl and whispered a prayer of thanks that the forehead her arm had brushed against had felt blissfully cool. Arizona. Sam felt an urgency in his spirit. He had just watched the newest video clip, and he felt he needed to touch base with all his section coordinators. He would call the sections in order, so hopefully it wouldn't be too late in the evening for anyone he needed to speak to. Sam and Christian were very careful who they gave their personal numbers to. Sam swapped numbers with Christian and his coordinators. Everyone else could converse on the site. Now he dialed Judge Thurston Moran. "Moran." "Judge, it's Samuel Adamson. How are you this evening?" "Encouraged after that last video clip, I must say." "I assume that's the reason for your call?" the judge replied. "Yes, and to touch base to see how things are progressing in your section." "Well, let's go there first then. We have vehicles stashed in the capital city of every state in our section, and 2 large stashes of weapons. One in Silver Springs, Maryland, which is 20 miles from the capital, and one in Alexandria, Virginia, which is almost 8 miles from the capital. I also have the support of about a dozen militia who used to be Capitol Police before they were done away with, who are patriots and would like to see our nation restored to what it once was. They will be on hand to make arrests on Independence Day. I've got some prosecutors and legislators who owe me favors, should I need to call them in. I will keep that in my hip pocket as a last resort resource." "Very good, Judge. I knew you were on top of things in your section. It just encourages me to hear it." "My pleasure, Sam, and please call me Thurston." "Your thoughts on the video, Thurston?" "I'd love to know who the contributor is. Those tapes are very well put together, very compelling, and informative. I've no doubt that once we've received them all, we will be well equipped for G-Day." "G-Day?" Sam asked. "Go Day, God Day. Call it what you will. I just thought it was catchy." "That it is," Sam agreed. "Any questions for me, Thurston?" "Just one, Sam. Has our missing camp been found?" "Not yet," Sam said. "Keep me posted," the judge requested. "Will do," Sam said, disconnecting the call. Next, Sam dialed Janet Webster in Grove City, Ohio. "Webster residence, Sabina speaking." "Hello, Sabina. This is Uncle Sam. Gotta say, I love your new page. You're doing a great job, young lady." "Thanks," Sabina replied, glowing with the compliment. "But I bet you called to talk to Mom." "Yes," Sam agreed. "Is she available?" "Mom!" Sabina hollered in Sam's ear. "Telephone!" "This is Janet." "Hi, Janet. It's Samuel Adamson. How are you this evening?" "Quite well, Sam. Thank you." "I just called to see how things are coming along in your section." "Pretty good, I'd say. We have a couple of caches of weapons in Columbus proper and one large one here in Grove City, which is only 10 miles away." Is that going to be enough for each person mobilized to have one? Sam asked. If we include knives, then yes. Okay, good. Where are you at with vehicles? Janet replied, We have about 30 in each of the large cities and about a dozen in each of the smaller ones. They would need more than that, Sam thought. Section 1 had a good idea. See if you can get all the vehicles in each state moved into garages in the capital cities. That way, everyone knows where they are and they aren't so spread out. Then we can get a count and see how many more we still need, Sam suggested. I can do that. Say, have you found out where the fence sitters were taken? Not yet, Sam said, but we will. Okay, Sam, thanks for the call. You're welcome, Janet. Keep up the good work. So far, so good, Sam thought. Catherine brought Sam a cup of coffee. He smiled a thank you, took a sip, and listened to the phone he had just dialed ring. Jeb Bingham here. How can I help you? Jeb, it's Sam Adamson. Uncle Sam, good to hear from you. That was some video clip on the evidence page. That was my train, you know. I was driving that day. I was not aware of that, Jeb. You work for the government? Retired railroad. Couldn't stomach the way they treated people, but I still have the trust of the higher-ups, which could be helpful, right? Very helpful, Sam agreed. That's why I volunteered for coordinator. I have inside info, can get us right to that hidden gate, and no one would ever suspect me. Best news I've heard all night. Don't suppose you know where my missing Minnesota camp went, do you? Jeb chuckled. Can't help you there, my friend. How are things on the weapons and vehicle front? Sam asked. Got 85 to 100 vehicles stashed in each of 10 cities: Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Chicago, Springfield, Louisville, Knoxville, Charlotte, Durham, Charleston, and Raleigh. As for weapons, I've got an old retired railway car in my yard, filled to the brim. If any other section is running short, I've got extra. Just got to figure out how to get them there. Well, you've been a real blessing, Jeb. As have you, Sam. As have you. Have a good night now. Before Sam could dial the coordinator of Section 4, his phone rang. Samuel Adamson. Hi, Sam. It's Marcy Tompkins from Duluth. Marcy, were your ears burning? I had plans to call you this evening, Sam said. I was going to call earlier, but I had to bathe my daughter and put her to bed. I have some important information for you. Okay, Sam said. What's up? I know where Camp Savage is. There was silence for a beat. Marcy was afraid Sam had hung up. Sam, are you there? Yes. Sorry, Marcy. You took me by surprise. Where is Camp Savage? It's at Island Lake, Minnesota. Which is where exactly? Sam asked. 26 miles northeast of Duluth. That's why I chose Marcy, the spirit within Sam said. How do you know this, Marcy? Sam asked. She hesitated, then said, I can't tell you. It's dangerous. He considered this, then said, But you are sure? Yes, I'm sure. Well, that is wonderful news. Thank you for calling me right away to let me know. Now, tell me how things are progressing in your section. Well, I've spoken to women from the database in various cities in my section who will babysit for those of us with children on the day we need to go. G-Day, Sam said. G-Day, Marcy repeated. That's wonderful. Something I would not have thought of doing. How about cars and weapons? We have a couple hundred pickup trucks and some 4x4s spread throughout the section surrounding lakes. But the trucks will probably hold 10 people in each bed. And Minnesota is hunting country. Almost everyone has a rifle. We are working on collecting and caching them. Let's take advantage of Minnesota's lake system, Sam suggested. Why don't you see if you can have people go camping at campgrounds around Island Lake and bury some weapons at each? He suggested. I can do that, Janet replied. Good job, Janet. I've got the right woman for the Section 7 coordinator. Thanks for calling. Glad I could help. Good night, Sam. Sam dialed Stuart Haynes in Wichita, Kansas. Sam knew Stuart was only 16 years old, but he was an emancipated minor, so he was legally an adult. He'd been told how Stuart and his best friend Trenton had reported people to the militia for money, and he had practically begged Sam to allow them to coordinate their section in an effort to make up for what they had done. He didn't have the heart to say no, but he was curious to see with this call if they were really able to handle the job or not. Hello? May I speak to Stuart Haynes, please? Sam inquired. Speaking. Stuart, this is Uncle Sam. Welcome aboard. I'm just calling to see how things are progressing in your section. Great, he replied. I found out that all the high schools in the section who had driver training classes still have their cars locked up on campus, and we were able to liberate those and put them in parking garages in each of our states. So the cars are taken care of. Nobody wanted to trust a 16-year-old with their guns, though. I was afraid of that, Sam thought. So Trenton's dad got on the phone and encouraged people to let him collect them. Good. You boys are doing a fine job. So, Stuart said, sounding like the kid he was, do we have a secret code name for this operation? Actually, we do, Sam said, and you are one of the first to learn it. It's G-Day. Like Get Going Day? Stuart asked. Just like that. And speaking of get going, I've got another call to make. Thanks for all your help, Stuart. I'm grateful to be one of the good guys again, he said, hanging up. Sam's last call was to Gerald Whitfield in Sweetwater, Texas. He was the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Sweetwater. His congregation found a way to have church, door to door, ever since the padlocks and plywood appeared. Sam was thrilled to have a pastor who practiced what he preached as one of his coordinators. Gerald called it putting feet to his faith. This is Pastor Whitfield, he answered. Hey, Pastor, this is Samuel Adamson. Isn't it a little risky to answer the phone that way? Maybe, the pastor replied, but I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. I won't change my greeting to please the enemy. I like this man, Sam thought. Tell me my prayers have been answered and you found Camp Savage, the pastor said. Your prayers have been answered. We found Camp Savage, Sam said. Praise God. Where? Island Lake, Minnesota, north of Duluth. Well, I'll be. God never ceases to amaze me. So what's on your mind, Sam? I actually called to check on your progress with your section. Well, I hit up every church in our section that had a bus ministry and asked them if I could have their buses. They weren't confiscated, you know. And every single one gave them to me. They hold about 48 people each. We got them gassed up and we are just leaving them where they are until we need to use them. That's great. And weapons? Sam asked. Well, we have ranchers here in Texas, so quite a few cached here, but not so many in our section's other states. I can get you some to stash in West Memphis, Arkansas, from Memphis, Tennessee, if you can arrange for someone to pick them up and cache them. I think that can be arranged. We have some sister churches in Arkansas. Okay, let me set it up on my end, and I'll get back with you in a few days. Sounds great, Sam. God bless you and the missus, Pastor Whitfield said, ending the call. Phone calls made, Sam got ready for bed. Things were progressing nicely in each section, and he'd found out where the fence sitters had been taken. Not a bad night's work, he reflected. Not bad at all. Iowa, Missouri, Kansas. The hours and miles were ticking by like a clock in a classroom 30 minutes before school let out for the day. Gloria decided she needed to take advantage of them to get to know her new assistant. So, Rob, tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up? How'd you come to be at Camp Savage? The corporal shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He would rather hear about his new employer. How did this woman come to be second in command to the highest-ranking person not residing in Washington, D.C.? He wondered. The longer he hesitated, the more her eyes bore into him. Might as well answer, he figured. I grew up in the Bible Belt in a little town called Russellville, Missouri. I was an only child. My mom had a few miscarriages before I was born. She called me her miracle child. They didn't want to risk having any more. You must have been so cherished, given everything growing up, Gloria surmised. By my mom, as much as possible, but I was a disappointment to my father. Oh? Why? I wasn't the son he wanted. I didn't want to learn to hunt or fish. I didn't like hurting things. I wanted to be a nurse ever since I was 7. Not a doctor, a nurse. He started calling me Pansy, Fairy, and Roberta instead of Rob. Are you gay, Rob? Gloria asked. Not even close, he said, sitting a little taller and puffing out his chest a bit. But that didn't stop him from trying to toughen me up. I got beaten on a regular basis. Gloria was appalled. Mom looked the other way. At first, she didn't want to acknowledge it was actually happening. Then I think she was afraid what he would do if she intervened. When he broke my arm, she finally left him and went to live with her sister in Tucson, Arizona. Gloria noticed a little tear in the corner of Rob's eye as he told his story. She deliberately pretended not to notice. This must be hard for him to tell, she realized, but she was glad she had asked. It meant a lot that he trusted her with his painful past. How did this man come to work in a torture camp? She wondered. It didn't make sense. Were things better in Tucson? She asked. Night and day, he said. I went to Palo Verde High School on the east side of Tucson. It's a science and math magnet school. The emphasis there was on academia, not sports. From there, I went to U of A, the University of Arizona, and I got my nursing degree. How did you wind up in Camp Savage? Gloria asked. I was nursing at St. Mary's Hospital in the southwestern part of Tucson in the palliative care unit. He saw Gloria's forehead wrinkle and explained, It's like hospice. I took care of people who were dying. I made their last days as comfortable as possible. It was right up my alley, what I was meant to do with my life. Then how? Gloria started, but Rob continued as if she hadn't even spoken. One woman wanted to be read to from the Bible. This was after they'd been outlawed. I tried reading her classic novels and poetry, but she wouldn't be consoled. She wanted to hear the Bible and was getting so agitated that I decided to comply with her wishes. My mother had one I knew she kept hidden away, so I borrowed it and read to her. She immediately calmed down and was at peace. I was reading the 23rd Psalm to her when she shut her eyes and never opened them again. The alarm on her heart monitor went off, and the doctors rushed in, and I was caught with the Bible and arrested. Rob took a sip of the iced tea he'd gotten at the drive-thru they went through when they entered Kansas City. It actually felt good to tell his story, he realized. He continued. I was taken to the processing center in the first run. I was determined to be a TC3, a non-believer, and was sent to Fort Benjamin Harrison for training. Well, this was something Gloria knew about. I don't understand. Why were you trained as militia? You didn't have military or police experience, did you? He shook his head. When I heard the message on the conditioning earbuds, I took them out of my ears and tossed them away from me. I couldn't help it. He lifted his hands in a gesture of helplessness. Gloria understood the reaction. She had done the same thing. Some colonel saw me, Colonel Greenbrier, and hauled me into his office. Said if the earbuds offended me, he had just the place for me. He got me a militia uniform and sent me to Camp Savage with instructions that I work in persuasion. He was sobbing softly now. Gloria no longer felt guilty about Eric. He got what he deserved. Rob turned pleading eyes to Gloria. It broke her heart. No, I don't deserve to work for the Supreme General of the Militia's personal liaison. I'm going to disappoint you both. I don't want to mistreat anyone for what they believe or stand for, or for any reason for that matter. Maybe my dad was right about me. I'm too soft to be a real man. Gloria pulled the car to the side of the road and stopped. She looked him in the eyes as she handed him a Steak and Shakes napkin. Tell me the truth now. I promise you won't be in trouble for your answer. Would you be part of a resistance movement against those currently running this nation, if such a thing existed? He looked directly in the eyes of the one woman capable of having him sent to Camp Bouse and killed, and without hesitation said, in a heartbeat, You're not too soft to be a real man, Gloria told Rob. That was the bravest admission I've ever heard. Let's keep this discussion between us, okay? Rob nodded and for a moment was certain that the God he wasn't sure he believed in had sent an angel to rescue him from Camp Savage. She would have his undying loyalty. Gloria started the car and pulled back onto the highway. She was feeling much better about the trip and her new assistant as she did. Washington, D.C. President Naylor, Vice President Naylor, Chief of Staff Preston, and General Hsing were once again gathered for a monthly update on Operation Roundup. When all were settled and had their coffees, Preston called the meeting to order and said, Vice President Naylor, if you could please update us on the status of the processing center as well as all the camps. Jackie cleared her throat, a rather indelicate, masculine sound. General Hsing thought, but would never say, and began. The processing center is running as smoothly as ever, under the watchful eye of the Supreme General. Our first few runs processed 100,000 containees each. This most recent one was down a bit. Fewer arrests. Not sure why. Might want to ask Hsing about that, she said, looking at the general with an arched, penciled-in eyebrow. But no problems to report there. And what of Private Greenbaugh? The president asked. Jackie chuckled. They've got him in commodities, handing out the food distribution. Can't think of a more fitting position for him if you ask me. Which we didn't, Rust thought. We've got the new colonel, Colonel Bragg, running Fort Benjamin Harrison now. He seems to be getting his feet under him. They had some issues with defective earbuds for conditioning, but the Supreme General has assured me that the conditioning has been worked into the curriculum for all new staff training, so it's not an issue. Technology, right? She said, rolling her eyes. Fort Hays has undergone a major renovation with brand new dorms and an updated nursery, but it was old. That girl needed a makeover. They now have new vegan chefs, too. Very chic. Anyway, it all seems to have been worth it because the children have settled down now and are being attentive to their studies and are actually wanting to become vegan. So all is good there. There's been a lot of changes at Camp Savage, too. There were about a dozen staff fired and others put in their place. Ms. Vincent said they were lazy, had bad attitudes from being out in the middle of nowhere with no accountability for so long, and were being too lenient with the containees. The president nodded his approval. The Persuasion Island is temporarily out of commission for upgrades. What? Why? The president asked, perturbed. Ms. Vincent's exact words were, "They only have so many teeth and fingernails, Ms. Vice President. Their eyes glaze over during the movie. They've seen it so many times. It doesn't have any more effect on them. And you don't want to kill them with poisonous snakes, but after a while, the terror of non-poisonous ones fade and bites heal. We need more effective persuasion." She assures me that her old assistant, Dylan Williams, whom she has made camp director, has some diabolically effective ideas for the little island in the works. And it won't be long before it's up and running again. The president sighed and said, "Well, that makes sense. I guess everything requires upgrades after a while. Preston, get word to Dylan Williams that food distribution is to be limited to every other day until the little island is back in service." "Yes, President Naylor." "Continue, Jackie," President instructed with a nod to their husband. "The sick are getting better, or they aren't, and the elderly are dying or hanging on. We'll know more from Camp Barkley soon. Ms. Vincent is on her way there now and should be arriving this evening." "And Camp Bouse?" the president asked. "The new guillotines are working great. Per your orders, they are dispatching 30 per day." "Let's have all 4 going at once and have each one filled 4 times in an hour," Russ suggested. "How many is that per day, Preston?" 192, President Naylor. "Yes, much better. Preston, make the call, will you?" "Of course, President Naylor." "Anything else, Jackie?" Rust asked. She shook her head no, her new blonde wig swinging on each shoulder as she did. General Hsing, have you anything to add? Only that Independence Day is about 6 weeks away. We typically honor military heroes and their families, host a barbecue and concert on the South Lawn, and shoot fireworks over the Potomac. Ugh, the president replied, making a face. I hate that holiday. I wish we could do away with it altogether. Hissing started to say something, but Rust cut him off. Yes, yes, I know. The people expect it. Okay, we have no military. Skip that part. Order barbecue in for the staff on that day and give them concert tickets to some concert, any concert. I don't care. We'll still do the fireworks. General Hissing nodded as Preston made the appropriate notes on his tablet. Finally, the president said, wrapping up the meeting, I told the Supreme General the last time I talked to him that I want to see all the changes at all the camps for myself. He told me Ms. Vincent's last day at Camp Bouse is on the 4th of July, and I want both of them to accompany me. So we plan to leave from here Wednesday the 6th. Preston, please arrange my schedule accordingly and make us an itinerary. Will do, President Naylor. And with that, we are adjourned. So that wraps up part 18 of Without Faith. So be sure to check in with me next time for part 19. Things are going to start getting good now. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And in that way, you help spread the word. Thank you. God bless.